We have finally made it. Hockey season is officially here. The Hawks and Panthers dropped the puck at 4:20. Join us for the CHGO Blackhawks pregame show. Happy opening afternoon, Blackhawks fans. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks pregame show.
Opening supper.
That's right. I'm Jay Zawoski. That's Mario Tirabassi. Sarah Fichter's here running the show.
Go Hawks.
We're excited to be at full strength for our first broadcast. Puck drops at 4:20. That's why we are having the slightly delayed start. And hello to Leah, our friend from PHNX in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Leah. Hit the like button. She knows that. You guys know that. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let's do that. We're going to hear from Kyle Davidson. We're going to hear from Jeff Flashel. We're going to share the lines. But before we do any of that, first day, Mario, vibe check. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's the first actual day of the regular season. It's an awkward start time.
Yes.
but I feel good. I'm excited for what this season can be. I think I have a lot of optimism, maybe more than others, but color me shocked that I'm trying to be optimistic about things moving forward. But no, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing how this team looks when games matter, and they're going to be tested very heavily game number one. Yeah,
it's a good test for them. This is one of those situations, though, where you've got a team that's banged up. You've got a team that is going to be emotional and maybe a little emotionally drained from a banner-raising ceremony, a weird game time. This is something they could take advantage of. And while maybe I don't necessarily expect the Hawks to win this game, I think it is a very fair expectation that this is a competitive game that can go either way, that they're right there with the Florida Panthers. That should kind of be the expectation this year. And while, there will be your occasional 5-1 thumpings, those are going to happen. The norm should be games like we saw in the preseason with Minnesota and St. Louis, where they were right there. They win one, you lose one, but it's could go either way against teams that are on paper much better than them.
I mean, all of the preseason games, I'd say all but one of them, the lineups that the Blackhawks played and their opposition played were comparative. Yeah, I would say, and all those games were close in one way or another. Either they won close. I mean, the one win, I think it was over the Wild, was 4-1. So hey, that was a win. But even the games that they lost, there were two of them where they had advantages in the metrics and the analytics, and had 6 power play chances. And so there's things that you point to and say they did well, that just the puck just didn't go into the net. Like sometimes that happens. So if you have games like that into the regular season where you're competitive with some of these teams that you're probably overmatched against, and you keep games close, like outside of pulling some upset wins this season, like I don't think you can be too mad about a Blackhawks team that gives you that chance night after night. And then I think this is a team that's going to be good enough that they are going to be able to steal some games that last year or the year before that they weren't able to.
Well, I have faith. I bet the money line on Bet365, and we are presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Lots of people commenting on the start time. Yes, it's weird. ESPN wants to get 3 games in tonight. Fine, whatever. It's a one-time thing, but the reason we started, if you just got in here late, puck's dropping at 4:20 Chicago time. So you got a little extra time. Get that mac and cheese boiling. Get those brats on the grill.
Oh, yeah.
Get those RCs cracked.
Of course.
But let's hear from GM Kyle Davidson. He met the media earlier this afternoon. Kind of gives a state of the team, state of the season thing before it begins. So here's what the Hawks GM had to say.
Get this going and see what you guys have. Obviously quite the formidable opponent to start off, but
just to see what's going on here with you all.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to finally play some games. That not that the preseason doesn't matter, but these ones are for points, and so it's exciting just to get going and have the new coaching staff, up and running and kind of implementing some new systems, and thought we had a great camp, and so just excited for everyone, coaches, management, players, just to get going for real.
It's interesting, I think I saw that you're the third youngest team in the league. But when you look at the forward group, there's still a lot of 30-something veterans on there. What is it about that mix that you like, and do you expect that to kind of change as the season goes on? Are guys on the Nazar path, in other words?
Yeah, we do have a couple players in Rockford that are very close, and so conceivably we could, our average age could drop a little bit, but that remains to be seen. We've got our team that we're running with right now, and we are a young group, but you have to have a little bit of a mix there. It's a long season. It's a lot of new for some of these young players, which can be helped by those veteran guys in the room. And so I think it's a good mix right now. I think we've got a good dynamic, and I thought the group came together quite well in training camp. And so I think we're just happy with what we've got and the group that we're starting with here. And but it's just day one, and then we'll adapt as we go through the season. Things obviously changed a ton last season, and we'll kind of see how it changes throughout the season.
When camp started, I think with Matt Grzelcyk, the talk was it's about his play, but mostly about how those young left-handed defensemen were going to play. Did you not see enough, or how did you sort of evaluate whether to sign him and then signing all those guys to Rockford?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Sometimes you want players to jump up and take jobs and leave no doubt, and I think in our minds there's probably some opportunity there to grow a little more for some in Rockford and give them some time. And so Matt offered a great veteran presence to round out the group and give some guys some more time and maybe opportunity to grow their games and get a different experience than they would up here. And so I think overall it's a great opportunity for Matt, and then great opportunity for some of these young guys to learn from a guy like that with such great experience.
What's your view on how things stand with Reichel right now? You said it was kind of a prove-it camp for him. Seemed like a healthy scratch probably tonight, and he's been in some trade rumors. What's your view on his outlook here moving forward?
Yeah, well, Lucas is someone that we know very well. We like Lucas. It's just, sometimes there's 12 other guys that are just fitting a little more seamlessly at the moment. But again, that's just for night one. And so he's working hard. I know the coaches are working with him to make sure he's ready to go when the opportunity arises. And we expect he'll take that when a spot opens up. So, no, I think he's a useful part of our team. He's here for a reason. And he's going to get an opportunity here coming up, and it's just up to those players that are not in the lineup to make the most of the opportunity when it does come around.
Where do you feel Kevin Korchinski's development is, and where do you like to see maybe if it's the next step this season?
Yeah, I think again, Rockford's a great opportunity for a player like Kevin to play a ton. He's going to play a lot down there, which wouldn't have been the situation here. He's going to be able to play every situation, left side, right side, power play, meaningful minutes at the end of periods, end of games, and so I think that's invaluable to a 21-year-old defenseman that's still raw and coming into his own in pro hockey. But we want to see him grow with his confidence with the puck. We drafted him because of some of those skating and skill and puck elements, and also grow his defensive game along the way. But just want him to get back to playing confident hockey with the puck, making sure that he's impacting it with the puck on his stick, and then we think that that's most effectively and well done in a setup like Rockford, where we can control how much ice time he gets and the different situations he's in.
It's got to be tough for him. I mean, he came up, he played a full season, basically because of the circumstances of his age and everything, and he's seeing guys, leapfrog him on the depth chart here. Guys that were behind him are now ahead of him. How do you keep his, mentality upbeat and when he's seeing Sam Renzel and Artie Levshunov and some of these guys kind of take those jobs?
Yeah, it's a conversation with a lot of young players.
He's still really young.
He's still very young, very, very young. And, he was one of those players that, at 19 years old, probably could have benefited from, potential rule changes we're seeing in the future with CHL players being able to go to the AHL, but that wasn't the case. But with young prospects, I think it's important to make sure they focus on their own development, just because everyone is so different and their needs and the situations are all so different that once you start comparing yourself to someone else, it's a slippery slope. It's an easy thing to do, but it's also a slippery slope. And so you just have to focus on what's best for you in that moment and making sure that you're doing everything you can in your situation and your skill set to improve, to make sure that you're on the right track to being a full-time NHLer. And we feel he is. We feel that he's in the best position to do that right now. And but that's not the same case for everyone. Just like when he was 19 and we kept him, some players go back to junior, and that doesn't mean they're any further behind or ahead of anyone that maybe does get NHL time right away. So, it's sometimes I understand the dynamic and how difficult it could be, but for the most part, I know. I think he's total pro. Total pro. He's very mature. I think he understands the path, and that's through effective communication and making sure that the player does understand that. And so, I think our staff has done an effective job of making sure that players understand why, the why behind our decisions. And doesn't mean they always have to agree with it right away. A few, do in most circumstances. But I think we're in a spot with a lot of all of our players where they understand, they're bought in, and they're on the best path to becoming NHLers.
Sorry to keep hammering the Korchinski topic,
Yep.
but he chose to only gain a few pounds this summer, feeling like he didn't want to get too slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
But strength has been something I feel like it's talked about a lot. The city keeps needing to get stronger. It's come up for 3 years now. Where do you feel like he stands in terms of that? And do you want him to eventually gain more weight? Do you feel like he's gotten to the point he needs to on that category?
Yeah, I think sometimes strength and weight are different conversations.
Yeah.
But I think he's on a really good path. I don't think there was anything wrong or inefficient about what he did this offseason. It's just, for a lot of these players and young players, it's about reps and just, gaining that strength on the ice in season against men. And there is some work to be done, obviously, in the summers. But I wouldn't say his physical makeup is behind the curve at this point. I think he's the weight's there, and it's just about gaining the experience and the physicality in games, and he's going to get a ton of that exposure this year.
There are some players that, like Oliver Moore, that seem to have pretty good camps and were poised to make the day one roster. I guess what went into the decision to send him, Allen, and some of those players down to Rockford to start?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if Blash talks to you guys more than I do, but something we've always talked about, and I know he's probably mentioned, is that there's a difference between surviving and thriving, and we want some of these players to thrive. And in some cases, and in most cases, that's some time in the AHL. Doesn't mean you're there for the rest of the year or anything like that. It's just they're there to grow their skill set and grow their understanding of pro hockey, whether it be getting up to speed with the pace of the game, the physicality, the schedule. There's a lot of things they can learn from time in Rockford, and so I think that's going to be really beneficial to him. And when he does come back, I think he's going to be even more prepared to succeed and thrive at the NHL level.
Do you have any specific timetables on Slaggert, Brossoit, Anderson?
Brossoit, no. Slaggert should be a pretty close to minimum IR stint. I think Joey, I'm not too sure. I'll have to get back to you on that one, but shouldn't be long term. Should be, in the next little while, he should be back up and running. But Slag should be back pretty soon.
From a wider standpoint, the McDavid contract and the Kaprizov contract, are those outliers because of their situations, or do they affect the overall market when you start thinking about long term here?
I think the one thing is that we're again we want to draw conclusions to everything and build a pattern and how that's going to predict future behavior, but I don't think anyone knows. I think everyone's just so everyone's situation is different, players' motivations and teams' motivations, and it's all very different, and it's all specific to each case. And so I look at it just as much as everyone else, and I have no clue. I don't know where it's headed. I don't know what it means for for anyone down the road, or what guys could get in free agency next year. You try and figure it out, but it just seems so. Everything seems like a one-off. So I don't know if anyone's going to be held to one or the other, or I think when you get into these guys that are unrestricted, it is a little bit different, versus things like the ARP system, which are much more formulaic. So, but yeah, I'm not too sure.
Is it just going to be kind of wacky here for a few years until things like normalize with the cap going up and elite players under contract, but other guys that maybe aren't that level?
Yeah, I think
signing at the right time.
I certainly think it could take a couple of years for that that water to find its level and everyone to figure out what they're dealing with, or we're just, I don't know, maybe not. But it feels like just with the new cap system that players, player reps, teams are just trying to find what that new normal is, and I don't think anyone quite knows as of right now.
Any early impressions of Frandell in Sweden?
Yeah, really positive, really excited, and I know our assistant GM, Mark Eaton, was over there watching him last week for a couple games, and he had some really, really exciting showings. So, I think his decision to go back to Sweden and play with Djurgården, is proving to be a sound one, and I think it's a great situation for him to continue to, like we mentioned with some of these other players, to thrive. And it seems like he's thriving right now in that situation, and we'll be watching every single game, and so far so good. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Kyle, by the way.
Thank you, Kyle. Oh, he introduced himself to somebody.
Hey, Kyle. Kyle, good to meet Kyle.
I think we have the buzzwords
Yes.
of the training camp: thrive, and survive.
Thrive to survive. Don't be jive.
Yeah.
New CHGO shirt.
There you go.
Buy it now.
Put it on the shirt.
I have not seen Kyle Davidson light up the way he did when Anton Frandell was brought up since the draft lottery.
Yeah.
That was, he's like, oh, yeah, ask me about this.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to talk about that.
If you've been paying attention to what Frondell's been doing, some good things out there in Sweden. So
7
good to
goals,
see him.
5 assists in 12 games.
Yeah, 5 goals in 2 games since moving from center to wing.
Pretty good.
So that's good.
Pretty
That's
good. Pretty
good
good
for
pretty
him.
good.
He is thriving. Yeah, I mean, hearing from this first time we've heard from Davidson now, right before training camp or first day of training camp to now, the beginning of the regular season, and I think where we sit with the Blackhawks is not really too surprising. I would say, as far as how we got to this point with who's here, who's in Rockford, how they want to kind of handle these players, and even as Mark Lazarus said in at the beginning of Davidson's pressers, saying like they're the 3rd youngest team in the league, even with a lot of veteran players still hanging around.
Nick Foligno.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, last season they ended the year, I think it was 5th youngest, and that was counting, all the 20-year-olds that they had for the last 9 games of the year. So I think what we're going to see this year is a group that is going to have a lot of growing to do with a lot of these young players as they get into this season, still growing from guys like Frank Nazar that we feel really confident about and feel like, solidified NHL guy. Still less than a full year's worth of games played in the NHL. So he's still going to continue growing and learning the league. And, you look at the defensive group, a lot of those guys got to do that. So there's going to be a mix of like veterans that you hope are back of the hockey card, if not better, and then young guys that'll go through some growing pains. But as the season goes on, I think that'll be less and less.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at the way I've seen some over the course of the last 24 hours, this morning at allchgo.com, I wrote just like, what does a successful season look like for the Hawks? And a lot of people have been kind of salty, like, I thought they were going all young, and they're not all young, and there's all these old guys in there. Kyle Davidson wanted this team to be as young as possible, and he brought in Matt Grzelcyk as an insurance policy in case Korchinski or Allen or Del Mastro didn't grab a spot. And I think as we were watching the preseason, we were talking about it, it was pretty clear. We said Allen was maybe the least disappointing. It doesn't mean he was outstanding or was undeniably supposed to be on the team.
Yeah.
I don't mind that he wants the guys to earn it. At the same time, I've seen people in the chat today and heard otherwise, like, well, Artem Levshinov didn't have a great preseason either, and he's on the team. I see why you're saying that, but I think there are things that Levshinov does, and we've talked about him a lot in this way, that he gets up for the big moments, that he understands that he doesn't get too high or too low. He understands that a preseason game is a preseason game, and I know these young guys are supposed to be like balls to the wall 24/7. That's just not really Levshinov's personality. I think he's going to turn it on for the regular season. And look, if he doesn't and he struggles, they can send him down, and they've got options. Nolan Allen played on the right side a lot last year, and he played a lot on the right side in Rockford for the year before.
Ethan Del Mastro's done play on the right side too.
There are options, but I think you've got to. You're saying, well, the only young guys to make the team were Renzel and Levshinov. Well, Connor Bedard is 20. Frank Nazar is 21.
Right.
Landon Slager is 22. Colton Dock is 22. So, yes, there's not a lot of teenagers on the team yet, but it is still a super young team with a super high ceiling. And as the season goes on and these guys get their time in Rockford and thrive, as Kyle Davidson said repeatedly, it'll just get younger and younger and younger.
Yeah.
And they have no loyalty to Matt Grzelcyk. Matt Grzelcyk was a guy on the street that they pulled off the street and said, hey, come in and earn a spot.
Matt Grzelcyk was a guy that didn't have a contract.
Right.
Like, he needed a path to the NHL and the Blackhawks. And he said, too, kind of like he could have taken one-year deals for less money to just try and go places, but he wanted to bet on himself. He took the opportunity with Chicago, and I don't know what the money that was being offered on those deals that he talked about earlier in training camp were, but he gets $1 million. It's not bad.
Sounds
I'd
good
like
to
$1
me.
million.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So
throw it on the pile.
he's in a spot here where he can play here, and then if there's a point where a young guy is ready to take his spot, then I'm sure he's not going to be mad if he has the opportunity to be moved to a team that's probably not going to be in the bottom 3 or 5 of the NHL and have a chance to potentially go to a team that's in the playoffs. So that opens up another spot, for Allen, Del Mastro, Korchinski, those young guys to have, as the season later on in the season, have a spot to go out and earn it if they don't already as the season goes on. And by the end of this year, I think we're going to be looking at, by mid to late March, early April, the team that is probably going to be the youngest in the NHL.
I think so, too. All right, here are the lines, and a reminder to not get too worked up about the opening night lines, because guess who was a healthy scratch for Game 1 last year? Ryan Donato did not play in the season opener for the Blackhawks last year.
Forgot about that.
And ended up being their leading goal scorer.
Yeah.
So there you go. Here are the lines for today. You've got Bedard centering Donato and Burakovsky, Nazar between Teravainen and Bertuzzi, Dickinson with Dock and Mikheyev, and Green with Foligno and Lafferty. Your D pairs are Grzelcyk and Renzel, Kaiser and Levshinov, Del Mastro and Murphy, with Spencer Knight getting the start. So with that, let's throw it to Blackhawks head coach Jeff Flashel. He'll explain some of his decisions and preview the game here. Hit that like button while you listen.
Well, I asked you it when everything started for training camp. I'll ask you again, just to be standing here, getting ready, and knowing when you go behind a bench tonight, it'll be as a head coach again, and just how's that going to feel for you personally?
Excited. I've enjoyed, I enjoy the opportunity. I've really enjoyed our guys, our group. So it's been a fun group to coach. It's been a really a fun group to as a staff to kind of start to bond a little bit. And so it's exciting. It's exciting for our team. I'm certainly excited. And the one thing that I said to myself, comparative to maybe my first job, is make sure you enjoy the moments more, and this is what we love to do, and life goes by fast, so let's make sure we're enjoying it.
Did you find that was a challenge sometimes in your first job because there's just so much on you?
Yeah, I think there's times when you don't enjoy it as much as you should enjoy it, and certainly comfortable right now, just really kind of taking the time to make sure that you savor the different moments, and so excited for that for sure. I mean, this is about our team, but definitely excited to be back, and especially with this group.
Did you still expect Vlasic to sit out tonight?
Yeah, Vlas will be out tonight. Yep, Vlas will be out tonight. Hopefully, Boston.
With Levchinov, is there anything you learned through camp of just how to coach him, how he needs to learn, or just kind of the process with him?
Yeah, he's he's a very, very young guy who moved away from home at a very young age, then moved over here at a very young age. I just put myself, my son's 19, goes to college at Ole Miss. Like, if we throw him into Moscow, like, how is that going to go? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think you have to keep your standards high, but have empathy for, the background and the understanding of, there's a language barrier. He's just young, and so, yeah, I've really, really, really enjoyed him as a person. He wants to do a good job. I think him and I have had a good rapport. We have fun together, but I can also, be hard on him. And he's actually a guy who I think accepts that kind of coaching and has played very, very well when those moments have happened. So, he's just like the rest of our team and certainly our young guys. The purpose is to keep growing, and so it's not going to just go, straight up. It's going to be ups and downs, and we're going to work through those together.
With him specifically, just I know you want to stay within your I guess your systems and all those things, but he seems to also thrive on instincts and sometimes taking that risk. Do you give him a little bit more leeway with a player like that?
Well, I would just say the whole game for me is risk reward. That's what the whole game of hockey is in what we're trying to learn is when to take a risk and is the reward worth it, right? And certainly different players have different leashes for that. Not everybody has the same leash for that. It depends on what the reward looks like when you make those plays. I think for him, though, to be honest with you, I don't think he needs a lot of risk in his game to create offense. And I say that because where I think he's going to do a real good job helping to create offense. One is when he moves his feet on breakouts like he did in the Detroit exhibition, he helps set up the goal because he's such a big body. It's hard. He's a hard guy to check, and so just being a real good breakout guy there, but most importantly, he can really get pucks in from the offensive blue line, and that's how you get a lot of points as a defenseman is finding ways to create those shots, tip opportunities, rebound opportunities, and I think he can do that. And there's almost zero risk in that. So I don't think he's necessarily going to be a guy who needs high risk, but every player is different, and we'll certainly treat him different.
You've seen the Panthers a lot over the last few years. They seem to revel in being the bad guys, playing the villain. What is it about them that kind of is so easy to get under other teams' skin?
Well, I'd just start by saying they're really, really good. They got a really, really good hockey team, and I think that's on display right now with some obviously unfortunate and key injuries to a couple of great players, but yet their lineup is still really, really deep. They have a good mix of skill and physicality and toughness. I think a mix that most teams would like to have. And then they play a certain brand. They're a forechecking team, and so they dump it in a lot and they go get it a lot. And with that comes the physicality of the forecheck. I don't know if it's necessarily a matter of getting under skin or not getting under skin. I just think they play hard, they're physical, and the games become emotional because of it.
I guess what's the message going into, obviously not this roster specifically, but the team has visited over their season against Stanley Cup champs. I guess what's the message to the team going into an atmosphere like this?
Well, I just think for us, we've put in a couple of hard weeks here, and we want to take steps forward. And I've said this a lot: you're either taking steps in the right direction or you're not. And so we want to take steps forwards. And then when you play really good teams, you get to kind of gauge and see where you're at. And I think it's the only way to get better is to kind of see where you're at, and then kind of regroup a little bit and decide what you need to work on, and then move forward with it. So it'll be a fun challenge. It's fun to be this early game. It's fun to kind of see them raise the banner. That brings an excitement to the opening game, and so it should be a real good challenge for us.
With Del Mastro in the lineup tonight, he kind of struggled in the preseason, but it worked out well for him. He gets to play tonight. What is your message to him?
He's a really good player. I think he did a really good job, the second half of last year. He brings size. I think he's got to be a guy who's a really good defender. He's got to be a guy who moves the puck up and gets our puck to the forwards. Him and I talked. I thought I didn't think his camp was bad. I didn't think it was great. I think it was fine. But he's got another level that I think he can get to, and won't surprise me to see him play real good tonight. He is a big body, and I think big bodies against real physical forechecking teams is important too.
All right, there he is, Jeff Blashill, ahead of his first game as Blackhawks head coach. By the way, thank you to the Blackhawks for use of the Kyle Davidson and Jeff Blashill videos. Thanks for getting those sent to us in time for the broadcast. I like the stuff he was saying about Levshinov, too. Like, there is a different leash with different players, and I think when you hear that initially, you're like, well, that's not fair. Well, I think it was Deep Harris in the chat early on. It's like, I want Connor Bedard bench for those careless spinoramas. That's not going to happen because Connor Bedard is your leading scorer, and more often than not, he's doing really good things that help the team. So he's going to get a longer leash than, say, Lucas Reichel, who turns the puck over, doesn't really have an impact offensively often enough. So it is going to be different rules for different players. I think it feels unfair, but you have to earn your opportunities.
Yeah, and your contributions impact that as well. So I think a guy like Levshinov, the expectation is to be a bigger minutes guy, contribute offensively, be on the power play. You know, he's the power play defenseman for that second unit. Give him some leeway to be the player that he made him the second overall pick. Be that defenseman that can jump in and be offensive. But I liked what Blashill said, to where he was just like, he doesn't have to be a risk taker to have those impacts. Like, he can play that sound defensive style, be a little bit, the way Blashill wants these guys to play, how he's kind of harped on this preseason. He can be that type of defenseman, but also he has the ability to be offensively impactful without sacrificing and taking risks. So again, that's one of those things that we're going to see as the season goes on, how his game can develop. He's still 19.
Yeah, 20. Patience.
He's still growing his game for sure.
100%. All right, we're going to let you watch the rest of the banner ceremony on ESPN. And remember, we are, again, your only local postgame show as soon as the game ends. So you want the Hawks slant? We are the only place in town to get it. So give us 5 minutes after the final horn, and we will be here, win or lose, after the game. Hit that like button on your way out. We'll talk to you after Hawks and Panthers on a CHGO Blackhawks postgame show powered by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.